Chapter 52 to 57. After getting beaten by a Cyberman and Raditz, Vegeta was thinking about what he saw on his way to one of Frisia's planets. He saw a real Super Saiyan, but it was not him, but the child of a low-class Saiyan. That got him shaken to the core. The legendary warrior of the Saiyan race, it was his dream. But 5-year-old kid was using it like it was nothing. He reached the planet and landed. He was beaten up, but not as bad as in the original, but had some internal injuries. So he entered the healing chamber. The alien in charge of the planet quickly contacted Frisia upon Vegeta's arrival. At the time Vegeta left the Earth, Frisia received a message about the existence of the Dragon Balls and possibly a Super Saiyan who killed Slug. Frisia didn't believe it, but was skeptical as he knows Slug died. So he ordered the execution of the remaining Saiyans. Then he prepared to go to Namek. Cooler's forces also reported the news to Cooler at the same time. As Cooler was further away from Namek, it would take some time for him to reach Namek. King Cold also received the news from his spies and Cooler's forces, but he decided to watch what was going to happen. As Vegeta was healing in the healing chamber, his arrival news was sent to all the Frisia forces, and an alien named Shui, who was an enemy of Vegeta, also heard the news and hurriedly left to deal with him. After some time, Vegeta was fully healed but didn't receive any Zenkai as he wasn't that badly injured. He received the report that Frisia was out. He then planned to leave the planet but was stopped by the appearance of Cui. Chui is an indigo-skinned, scaly, fish-faced alien. With the exception of his boots being green, he wears the common battle armor. Chui stood in front of Vegeta and spoke, "I've gotten stronger than my previous self, Vegeta. It's the end of the road for you now." Vegeta yelled, "Get out of my way, Chui. If you don't want to die," Chui laughed, "Haha Vegeta, Lord Frisia has ordered your execution. And I'm here to execute you." Vegeta frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Chui was a boastful alien. So he told Vegeta about the news of the Dragon Balls and Frisia wishes to be immortal. And also the rumor about a Saiyan killing Slug. Vegeta at that time confirmed that it was the doing of Kakarot and laughed. Then the fight started. Chui attacked Vegeta by kicking him only for Vegeta to block. Vegeta had a power level of 18,000, and Chui had 18,500. They were both equally strong. The fight continued without any progress. Both of them were getting tired. The other aliens retreated far away. The lab and other facilities were getting destroyed by their battle. Many weak aliens were also caught in the crossfire and died. Both of them were injured. Vegeta's left arm was broken and ribs fractured. He was bleeding from several places. Chui was actually in a slightly better condition, but also injured, nevertheless. Finally, with no other option, Vegeta launched an artificial moon and transformed into a giant ape. His power increased exponentially and started to beat down Chui. Now Chui's whole lower body was paralyzed as Vegeta stomped on him, but as a last resort, Chui sent a blast which cut off Vegeta's tail. Before he transformed back, Vegeta threw a punch on Kui, creating a giant crater and bringing all the surrounding buildings on him. And then Vegeta returned to normal. He was gasping for breath. But he couldn't do anything. If he stayed there, he would be hunted by Frisia. This was all happening because of Kakarot, he thought, and boarded a stray space pod wanting to escape. But as the space pod took flight, under the rubble, Chui, who was barely alive, used the last of his energy and blew himself up, damaging the vicinity and also Vegeta's space pod. Vegeta couldn't do anything as he was seriously injured and just braced for the impact. As the impact reached, the space pod malfunctioned and the course changed. Many systems stopped working, but the life support was functioning. Vegeta lost consciousness soon after Chui blew himself up. The lonely space pod was headed somewhere. At the headquarters of Galactic Patrol Organization, they received the news of Frisia forces and Cooler forces getting ready for some operation. After close inspection, they found out that Frisia himself was headed out, and that was the same for Cooler. Many patrol officers were scared as 2 galactic emperors were headed out themselves. They also checked the direction they are headed and found out it was planet Namek. They issued a return order for all the officers and didn't want to interfere. On an alien planet, a purple humanoid alien with a mainly light blue head, purple scalp with yellow eyes, and a human-like nose and mouth was staying with a slim girl who had very long blonde hair reaching down to her waist and large dark eyes. The alien received a message from the headquarters calling everyone back, but the girl didn't want to leave yet. She said, "Jocko, I want to stay in this planet for a while longer. I'm on my verge of getting a new story." Jocko replied, "No can do tights. Galactic Emperor Frisia and his brother are on the move. We have to return to the headquarters. If you don't want to come, then stay here. I'll pick you up later. Tights snorted, humph. Fine, I'll stay here. Jocko then hurriedly left the planet on his spaceship. Tights was Bulma's sister, who left planet Earth with an alien named Jocko, who was a galactic patrolman. He had come to Earth at the time Goku arrived on Earth, and Tights followed him to outer space to get some inspiration for a novel. She wrote a novel named Space Patrolman Jocko, which didn't find any success. So she and Jocko visited this planet they were in to get some inspiration. But Jocko left after getting summoned by the headquarters, leaving Tights behind. Tights was moving around the planet looking for inspiration in a hovercraft that she got from Jocko. The planet was a peaceful one with low power levels. It was a slightly backward planet with no good technology. While she was moving about, Tights saw a meteor enter from the sky. It crash-landed some distance away. Tights, as curious as she was, drove to the place of impact. There she saw a huge crater. She got out of her hovercraft and approached the crater only to see a spherical object that had crash-landed there. Tights decided to inspect the object. So she started approaching it. As she was halfway into the crater, the spherical object opened and came out a short man. He was severely wounded. He got out from the opening and tried to walk, but couldn't move properly and fell face first on the floor. Tights hurriedly ran towards the man and, witnessing his horrible condition, picked him up, supporting him, and moved him to her hovercraft. She laid him down in it and drove to the nearest village. After a while of travel, she reached the village, and with the help of some natives, she transported the injured man to a house. She then took off his half-torn clothes and patched him up with the medical supplies she had carried from Earth. She also noticed the brown tail that was cut in half and remembered what Jocko had told her about the species with a tail, and confirmed that he was a scion. After a few days, the short man woke up and saw that he was being treated. He still couldn't move properly. So he yelled for someone to respond. Anybody there? Where is this place? Answer me. Hearing the shout, Tights ran towards the room with a notebook and a pen. Seeing her, the man inquired, "Where are my women? How did I get here? How long was I out?" She then introduced herself. "My name is Tights. I rescued you and patched you up. We are in planet XXXX, you were out for a couple of days. Now tell me, aren't you a scion? And how did you get heavily injured?" Vegeta's face became surprised. "I'm Vegeta, the prince of all scions. Now tell me, woman. How do you know about science?" he asked. So you are the prince of science. It's a really good fantasy setting. This may be a good novel material. Tights murmured. Vegeta yelled, "Answer me, woman. From where did you hear about science?" Tights snorted, "Humph. My name is not woman. It's Tights. I heard from a friend who is a member of the Galactic Patrol that scions have a tail," she said, grabbing the leftover Vegeta's tail. "Let go of my tail," he said. Tights shook her head. "Don't be grumpy. You are seriously injured, now get some rest and don't shout. I'll get you something to eat." Then she went out, leaving him alone. Vegeta couldn't move due to his injuries, or he would have already killed her for not respecting him. After a while, Tights came in with some food. She then placed the food near Vegeta and went to help him. But Vegeta refused her help. "I don't need your help, woman. I can do my things myself," and tried to get up, but he couldn't move his body. Tights face-bombed and helped him sit and started feeding him. Vegeta had no choice but to oblige. His arm was broken. His back was cracked. He had numerous wounds all over his body. He survived only because of his scion physique. A few more days passed and Vegeta stopped being grumpy and started calling Tights by her name. He also accepted the help she provided him. As he was resting all this while, he was thinking hard on all the events until now. He went to Earth and witnessed a 5-year-old Super Saiyan and learned that the whole family of a low-class Saiyan were Super Saiyan. He was a proud prince. He could have accepted if Kakarot was a Super Saiyan. But his logic shattered when he learned Kakarot's whole family are Super Saiyans. He couldn't achieve what even little kids had achieved. He began to change his thinking. His pride was also broken by a Cyberman which was stronger than him. He wanted to get stronger. He wanted to reach that level, but his pride didn't allow him to ask for help from a low-class Saiyan. He was also hunted by Frisia now. All his life, there was nobody who cared about him. People were either afraid of him or took advantage of him. It was also humiliating for him to follow the orders of Frisia. At one point he thought of going back to Earth and asked Kakarot to help him dispose off Frieza, for revenge of the Scions, but due to his pride, he wanted to take on Frieza himself. He was frustrated. His mind was in a mess as he was in the brink of death just a few days back. Nobody cared about him. He also didn't care for anyone all his life. He only saw others as tools for him to use. But this strange woman had rescued him and also was nursing him back to health without any desire. This woman was the first one to care about him. This brought out a feeling that was hidden deep within his heart since he was a child. He couldn't explain the feeling, but it felt warm and he started to feel happy while she was around. He didn't want to admit it, but her presence felt good. Almost the same time Vegeta was recovering after fight with Chui, Frieza forces approached Namek. On Namek, Piccolo was training with Gohan and Mint was also present there training Luna and Trunks. Nail was meditating. All of them sensed the evil energy approaching, but was not much concerned as the energy seemed weak to their standards. Goku was back on Earth with Shishi. Raditz was training in the basement of the mansion. Frieza with great expectations for gaining immortality landed on Namek. Once he landed, he ordered his soldiers to go find the Dragon Balls. Nail, Piccolo, Mint and the kids also flew in the direction of Frieza. After some time, they reached to see an octopus-like spaceship. They landed on a cliff near it. When they landed, a lot of Frieza soldiers flocked out. Frieza soldiers saw the people standing on a cliff and one of them shot an energy beam to Piccolo. Piccolo just flicked the beam away. Nail asked the Frieza soldiers, "What's your purpose of coming to Namek?" One of the soldiers spoke, "We are the forces working under Lord Frieza. We came here for the Dragon Balls. Now hand them over." Piccolo replied, "We are not going to give you anything." The soldiers laughed and jumped to attack. Piccolo seeing this, charged a blast and killed all of them. Frieza, Zarbon and Dodoria were inside the spaceship. Dodoria's scouter suddenly beeped and exploded. Dodoria yelled, "What?" Zarbon said, "There seems to be someone strong out there." He then clicked on his scouter and read the power level and continued, "It seems that person has a power level of 20,000. Ah. Now it's gone." Frieza snorted, "Humph. It seems the Namekians can hide their power level from the scouter." Then the three of them exited the spaceship. When they came out, Frieza saw all his soldiers slaughtered and Piccolo, Nail, Mint and the kids just standing there. He observed them closely until he saw tails on the back of Mint and the kids. He laughed, "So some monkeys are still alive. Doesn't matter. Today I'll exterminate all of you." He then looked over to Zarbon and Dodoria finish them off. They both replied to Frieza, "Yes, Lord Frieza." Then Frieza suddenly stopped them. "Wait. They might know about the Dragon Balls." Then Frieza asked, "You Namekians, tell me where the Dragon Balls are." Nail stepped forward, "We won't tell anything to an evil person like you. I'll give you a chance, leave this planet, otherwise we have no choice but to fight." Frieza laughed, "Then so be it, Zarbon, Dodoria, finish off the monkeys and then Namekian. Just leave one alive." Both Zarbon and Dodoria smiled and launched themselves to fight. Luna seeing them approaching asked Mint, "Mom, can I fight them?" Mint nodded. "Yes, but take it easy, Luna. They are weak. Don't kill them in one shot." Luna smiled nodding, "Yes," she said and flew towards both of them. Zarbon and Dodoria were surprised seeing the Scion child approaching them, but nevertheless, this made their job easy. They will finish off this child first. So both of them attacked, but Luna powered up a little and hit Dodoria in the stomach. Dodoria puked blood and flew back a long distance and finally hit a mountain and fell unconscious. At the time Luna had powered up, Zarbon's scouter read a power level of 24,000 before it exploded. Witnessing the power increase and Dodoria getting pummeled in one blow, Zarbon quickly transformed. After Luna saw Zarbon's new form, she said, "You ugly." She then turned back to her brothers and continued, "Any one of you want to fight him? He's too ugly." Zarbon got angry and gritted his teeth. Frieza just laughed. Gohan nodded and came in front of Zarbon. He stretched his muscles and looked at Zarbon, "Let's fight." Zarbon then rushed to finish off Gohan, but Gohan blocked all his attacks easily. The fight continued for some minutes with Zarbon attacking and Gohan blocking Zarbon's every move with ease. Zarbon was getting frustrated as time went on. Even Frieza was unhappy watching this happen. How could Science be this strong? That was the only thing running through Zarbon's mind. Frieza was thinking a whole different thing, could it be true? The information I got was a Super Saiyan had killed Slug. He then looked at the sky annoyed. He had called the Jinyu force already. Even if he didn't believe the news about the Super Saiyan, he knew the person that could kill Slug must be powerful. So he didn't want to take any chances, and had called the Jinyu force already. But they had not arrived yet because they were a bit far away from Namek than Frieza was. After a few more minutes of toying with Zarbon, Gohan began to lose interest. Zarbon was weaker than the weakest Namekian warriors that were training under Nail and sometimes sparred with Gohan. He then yawned and said, "How about we end this?" "You are too weak." Zarbon gritted his teeth. Frieza too heard this and spoke, "That's N." He was about to call back Zarbon, but Gohan disappeared and appeared above Zarbon and clasped his hands, bringing them down on Zarbon's head. Zarbon dropped to the ground, creating a giant crater. Frieza was visibly angry witnessing the events. He gritted his teeth, but soon calmed down and spoke, "You monkeys have grown a lot. I can't let you live anymore." He then lifted off his hover chair, revealing a black underwear and a tail. Trunks, who was witnessing everything, flew towards Gohan and said, "Gohan, he's mine. I'll fight him." Gohan replied, "But he looks little strong." Trunks shook his head, "But Gohan, you and Luna got to fight. Now it's my turn." Frieza, annoyed by this, said, "You monkeys can come up to me together. No matter how many you are." He was interrupted by Trunks yelling, "Shut up, you eunuch freak. Why do you sound like a woman?" "Whatever, I'm speaking to my brother, not you." Frieza clenched his fist hearing this, but calmed down soon. He was old and experienced. He can't be riled up by a monkey child. Trunks, Gohan and Luna were 5 years old. After training on Namek and getting their potentials unlocked by Guru, all 3 kids had a massive power-up. Trunks was the weakest. He had a power level of 15 million. Gohan was second in line with a power level of 18 million, and Luna, being the daughter of 2 full-blooded Super Saiyans, reached a power level of 25 million. This was only a very small part that Guru could unlock of their potentials, and they were very young as well. As they grew up, they will get far stronger. All 3 of them could transform into a Super Saiyan with 50x boost as well. Gohan and Trunks argued for a while, and finally Gohan let go, and Trunks became hyped up for the fight. He hadn't forgot a strong enemy. He had only fought with Nail, his mother, and Goku, as all of them would take it easy, not wanting to hurt him while sparring. This was his first enemy to fight properly. Even if the power he sensed from Frieza was way lower than his own, he wanted to have a good fight. Gohan retreated back to where the others were and stood besides Piccolo. Trunks then faced Frieza. "Come, let's fight," he said. Frieza started speaking, "You may be strong to beat Zarbon and Dodoria, but my left hand is Inu." He was interrupted by Trunks, "Enough of your trash talk, eunuch freak. I can't stand your voice. Just fight." Frieza became angry and threw a punch at Trunks. Trunks simply stretched his hand and caught the punch with his palm. Frieza then disappeared and tried to backhand Trunks by suddenly appearing, but he dodged. The fight continued with Frieza attacking and Trunks either blocking or dodging all his attacks. Trunks had enough of this and powered up a little and started pushing back Frieza. Frieza just said surprised, "What?" as he felt the increase in Trunks' strength. He now understood that this kid was way stronger than he imagined. He needed to transform, but he didn't have any room to do so. But to his joy, at the right time Trunks spoke, "Is this all you have got? If so, then I'm disappointed." Frieza took the opportunity and said, "Kid, this is only my first form. I still have 3 transformations left, which increases my power exponentially." Trunks smiled hearing this, and he gestured for Frieza to transform. Frieza then started transforming. Everyone was watching Frieza transform. They felt the increase in his power, but that wasn't even 10% of Trunks' base power, so they weren't alarmed. Frieza transformed and laughed. He had become a giant with 2 horns. Trunks also sensed his power. Shaking his head, he asked, "Is this your final transformation? If so, then you better quit." Frieza laughed and said, "Don't be full of yourself, kid. This is more than enough to deal with the likes of you. In this form, my power level is over 1 million. Trunks had enough of this. He disappeared and appeared in front of Frieza, and using 50% of his power, he punched Frieza in the gut. Frieza puked blood and flew back. Trunks then appeared above him and kicked him. Frieza was then slammed into the ground and puked some more blood. He got up slowly as Trunks spoke again, "Enough. Now transform to your full power. I'm still holding back." Frieza, just from the punch he received, understood that he cannot win this unless he transformed into his final form. He then skipped his third form and directly transformed into his final form. In his final form, Frieza became a small and lost his horns. He was color changed to white. He then attacked Trunks using 10% of his power and punched Trunks. The unsuspecting Trunks blocked, but flew back. He then stabilized himself. Frieza smiled, "You Scions are prideful and arrogant. You let me transform and it will be your undoing." Trunks then powered up full and reached his full power of 15 million and spoke. "Enough talk. Let's fight." Trunks was happy to find a good opponent to fight. They both started fighting. Frieza was only using 10% of his power, which was 12 million. Trunks had a power level of 15 million, but due to his lack of experience, they both were equally matched with Frieza having a slightly upper hand. Trunks was constantly improving with every blow. Punches rained and kicks flowed and they were evenly matched, neither of them able to push the other back. But after a while, Trunks started to have an upper hand. Frieza was surprised as he noticed this and was surprised. He confirmed that he couldn't let this kid go. At just 5 years old and could match his 10% power. If he lets go of this kid, there was no telling how much stronger he would become in the future. Frieza became very. He then looked at the others who were standing watching the battle calmly and thought, are all these Scions equally strong? No. I can't let any of them live. I've to finish it fast. He then used 50% of his power and pushed back Trunks. Trunks also felt the power increase and knew that he couldn't win unless he transformed. Trunks then wiped his mouth and said, "You are strong, but you will be no match for me soon." As he said this, he shouted, "Ah," and his hair rose up. A golden glow started covering him and his hair, eyebrows, and tail started turning golden. Frieza was visibly scared seeing this. This was what his ancestors had warned his race. A golden Scion warrior with golden hair and a golden aura. This was a Super Scion. His worst fear had come true. Now he understood that the information that was provided by his minion was absolutely true. He yelled, "No. It's not true." He just changed his hair color. And comforted himself. Trunks, after finishing his transformation, said, "Now show me all your power. Even so you will not be a match for me." Frieza clenched his fist and roared. Frieza roared and he cannot afford to hold back anymore. He started powering up. After a while, he powered up to his 100%. Frieza was still in his final form, but his muscles were buffed up. Everyone felt his power. But compared to him, Trunks was many times stronger, so they were calm and watching. At this time, Gohan spoke, "Ah. Man, I wanted to fight him. Now Trunks will finish him off." Mid replied, "No need to be like that, Gohan. You will get your chance to fight strong opponents in the future. According to your father, Frieza is just SOSO. He once told me that there are people who are a million times stronger than Frieza in the universe." One day, when Goku was training with Mint, she asked, "Goku, why do you always train so hard? You have already unlocked Super Saiyan 2. And you must now be more than 50 times stronger than that Frieza." Goku smiled and patted her shoulder. "It's not Frieza, I'm worried about Mint. Don't ask me now, but I know for a fact that there are people who are a million times stronger than Frieza. I'm training to get stronger and I'll never stop. Only that way I can protect people that are close to me. I'll not let anyone hurt you guys." Mint at that time was happy hearing that Goku was working hard to protect her and their family. So she gives to always stand beside him and support him. Now back on Namek, Frieza had just powered up to his 100% and he attacked Trunks. He threw a full power punch towards Trunks thinking he would dodge and was ready to counter, but to his surprise, Trunks didn't do anything and received his punch. After the punch made contact on Trunks' face, he didn't even flinch. How would he? Frieza, at his maximum power, had a power level of 120 million, whereas Trunks in his Super Saiyan state had a power level of 750 million. He was more than 6 times stronger than Frieza. It was a massive power difference. Frieza then kicked Trunks, but the same thing happened. Trunks didn't even shake. He was just floating there with a golden aura covering him. At space, a little away from Namek, a similar spaceship like Frieza's was traveling towards Namek. Inside the spaceship, an alien looking similar to Frieza's final form was standing in front of a giant window bubble of the spaceship watching the space waving his tail. He asked his subordinate, "How long till we reach Namek?" The subordinate replied respectfully, "Lord Cooler, we will reach in 3 hours." Cooler slammed his tail cracking the floor. He said, "Damn Frieza, always ahead." He was interrupted when another alien subordinate came running and spoke. Lord Cooker, it seems Lord Frisia is fighting a very strong enemy. Cooler turned to the alien and said, explain. The alien nodded. Lord Cooler, the sensor we recently installed in our spaceship read Lord Frisia's power level at 120 million and he is fighting an opponent who has a power level of. The alien gulped his saliva with his forehead covered in sweat and continued. 750 million. Cooler yelled surprised, what? How much? The alien said again, 750 million sir, Lord Cooler. Cooler started sweating and went to the sensor to check the power reading for himself. He was only slightly stronger than Frisia. He couldn't imagine anyone with 750 million battle power. Frisia was trying his hardest, but Trunks couldn't even be budged. Frisia then flew back and yelled Death Saucer and created two purple discs on his hands and punched them at Trunks, hoping to cut him in pieces. But to his horror, Trunks just stretched both of his hands and caught the discs in his palms and applied some force, destroying it. Trunks then smirked, seeing the expression of disbelief on Frisia. Frisia launched a series of death beams, but Trunks didn't even bother to counter them. The death beams hit his golden aura and disappeared. Frisia didn't know what to do anymore. He wanted to escape. He then looked at the others who were watching very calmly. He then remembered that scions cannot survive in space, and he flew up high into the sky. He then started concentrating his energy and created a huge orange ball made of energy and threw it down at the planet, hoping to destroy everything. Trunks, witnessing this, brought his hands together to his right and he too started concentrating his energy. Muttering Kami, he had learnt this technique from his father when they were training in the time chamber with his uncle Raditz. A blue energy started forming in his palms as he said Hami and his power rose. As Frisia's energy ball approached, he stretched his hands outwards and released the energy, shouting HAAA. The blue energy collided Frisia's energy sphere and pushed it back. Frisia put all his power to push back to no avail. Finally, he got engulfed in the energy and pushed out of the planet. Soon his body started to disintegrate. His hands disappeared and his legs disappeared next, then his body started breaking down. Trunks then relaxed, and as he wasn't able to sense Frisia's energy anymore, he powered down and returned to Mint and the others and said, Mom, I won. Mint smiled and patted his head and said, good job, Trunks. At the spaceship in outer space, Cooler entered the room. The scanner was placed to see that the enemy's power raising and finally reached 900 million. Then, he witnessed Frisia's power disappeared from the sensor. Cooler's back was covered in sweat as he ordered, change course. Frisia's dead. It's too dangerous on Namek. The subordinate also started sweating and replied, yes, Lord Cooler, and immediately changed course away from Namek. He will first find out all the details of what happened before going back to Namek. As all this was happening on Namek, Goku was at home eating the food prepared by Shishi after the workout they had last night in the bedroom. Raditz also came by after taking a bath. Bulma and Shishi had put conditions on Raditz to take a shower every time after he trains. Otherwise, he won't be allowed inside the mansion. Raditz had to oblige. So he came to eat after taking bath. He also sat at the table, and while eating he spoke to Goku. Kakarot, my power has stopped increasing no matter how much I trained. What should I do? Goku thought for a moment and said, above Korin Tower you will find a place called the Lookout. Go there and find a Namekian called Kami and tell him that I sent you. He can help you progress. Raditz nodded and said, okay. Thanks, Kakarot. I'll leave now. Goku nodded, and when Raditz was about to leave, he called, oh. Raditz, also take Nappa with you. He must have been training with Master Roshi. Take him to the Lookout and also ask Mr. Popo, an assistant of Kami, to train him as well. Raditz nodded, saying, okay. I'm going. Goku nodded at him and continued eating, planning to go back to Namek after he eats. Unknown to him, Frisia has already been defeated on Namek. At Namek, the group was returning back after the fight, but they sensed some more power levels approaching the planet. They stopped on their tracks and left to the location the powers would supposedly land to find out who it was. They were not worried at all as the powers approaching seemed much weaker compared to Frisia's, and even Frisia was a pushover to them. Everyone there was strong enough to beat Frisia. 5 space pods entered Namek's atmosphere. The space pods then flew over and crashed in some deserted land, making 5 craters in the process. As they landed, Nail, Piccolo, Mint and the kids also reached there. The 5 pods then opened after a while and 5 figures existed out of it. One was a purple alien with horns, another was red alien which resembled humans, then there was a burly alien with mohawk hair, and lastly was another purple alien. The 5 aliens got out of the crater and all of them did strange poses, earning laughs from the viewers. After performing their strange poses, they saw Nail, Piccolo, Mint and the kids. As they saw them, they clicked their scouter to check the power levels and grinned while they saw all of their power levels were low. Captain Ginyu ordered his men, seems like we have visitors. Let's finish up here and go to Lord Frieza. We can't make Lord Frieza wait for a long time. At this time, Rikum came forward saying, I'll take care of him. He said ready to fight, and looking at his opponents he spoke, Oi, who wants to fight? Have you heard of the Ginyu Force? At this time, Gohan stepped forward, I'll fight him. You fought the last one, Trunks. Trunks nodded. Gohan then stepped forward and spoke, never heard of the Ginyu thing. Who are you? He asked. Rikum replied, I'll show you what the Ginyu Force is. Then he rushed towards Gohan and punched him. Gohan blocked the punch and said with disappointment, Ah. You are too weak. Can you transform like the last one that came here? Rikum said, no. Gohan shook his head and punched Rikum in the stomach. Rikum flew back spitting blood and hit a rock, falling unconscious. He then looked at the others and said, you guys are not strong. Come together. Captain Ginyu was watching intently at the fight. At the moment Gohan attacked, he imagined Gohan's power level to be at 80,000 as he could one-shot Rikum. He then stepped up telling the others, this kid might have a power level of 80,000. Jeez hearing this yelled surprised, what? 80,000? How? Aren't they Scions? Ginyu didn't say anything and stepped forward facing Gohan. Jeez, Berter and Guldo just watched. Captain Ginyu spoke to Gohan, I know you are hiding your power. So am I. Gohan smiled, hearing this, thinking this guy must be strong. Then, he motioned Ginyu to come. The fight started. Ginyu first attacked with holding back. Gohan just blocked all his attacks and got bored after some time. He then asked Ginyu, is that all you got? If it is, then I say the last guy was a whole lot better than you. Ginyu frowned, show me your power, kid. I'll show you mine. Gohan nodded and powered up, pushing Ginyu back due to the force. The scouter started beeping and burst at the reading of 400,000. Gohan was still powering up. Seeing this, the Ginyu Force got scared. G shouted, Captain, I think it's time to go get Frieza. Captain Ginyu didn't say anything. And was just watching Gohan. Gohan hearing G spoke, do you know that Frieza guy? Ginyu nodded, but G spoke, yes. We work for Lord Frieza. Gohan nodded in understanding, oh. That guy is dead. You see, my brother killed him, he said, pointing at Trunks. Hearing Gohan speak, Berter said, no, don't lie. How can some kids match Lord Frieza in power? Gohan just said that guy was weak. But not as weak as you guys though. He put up a good fight till my brother transformed. Ginyu now shocked asked, transformed? Why you are a Super Saiyan? Gohan nodded. Yes, all of us can transform into Super Saiyans. He said. Ginyu gulped his saliva. He wanted to switch bodies with Gohan, but this was just a kid. He was contemplating. Jeez, Berter and Guldo were scared as hell. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips. Yami Tancho. Harold's Martinsons. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.